Hey tutors, Mike here. So let's talk about corrections during lessons. Corrections and feedback are an essential element while tutoring. However, just as important as providing them is the manner of delivery, meaning the frequency, tone, and attitude when communicating them to students. Additionally, different students have different needs, and I'm not just referring to their English level. For instance, to some students, stopping them mid-sentence may be too disruptive to their concentration, while others may benefit and encourage tutors to immediately point out every mistake they make. Learning each student's nuances is key to being a great tutor. However, there are a number of good rules of thumb when it comes to feedback. Let's go over a few of them. First and foremost, you can never go wrong conveying feedback and corrections with a positive, constructive attitude. As we all know, it can be quite daunting to try and speak a new language. Students often struggle with fear of embarrassment and of making mistakes. Hence, a tutor should do their best to set the student at ease. Smile! Tell them to take their time and not to worry about making mistakes. Remind them that practicing and immersing themselves in English material can conquer all slips. Additionally, when pointing out the mistakes, try and bring along a positive observation on the student's performance. Great! Your pronunciation of X and Y is excellent! We just have to work on Z. You usually say Z like this. Let's try and make it that. Listen to how I say it. Or, for instance, when reviewing a student's writing, point out some of the positive in-between corrections. Your grammar's great and you're making great word use here. We just need to work on your sentence structure. You need to XYZ, Try and be cheerful. Even when pointing out repeated mistakes, it's important for students to feel relaxed and safe making those mistakes and being pointed in the right direction. And hey, celebrate improvements. Point out the small triumphs too. Next up is frequency. Giving too many corrections can be too disruptive and can also discourage a student, while giving too few can hinder a student's growth. It's best to aim for one correction for every 5 minutes of conversation. As you become more familiar with the student, you can bend this rule a little. But generally, allowing the conversation to flow and only stopping every 5 minutes to convey feedback will allow for a balanced exchange. Also, don't forget to use the corrections chat box. This is helpful all around. It gives your student handy notes that they can look up when reviewing the session's video, along with a timestamp of when you provided that correction during the session. It also generates a record for the tutor. You can go back and review corrections made across sessions to better prioritize areas that you need to work on with each student. And lastly, it's a great way to compile the corrections between feedback points in the conversation, meaning you buffer them, you type them in the corrections chat box, and send them over at the opportune moment. Next, do not neglect your body language. Body and facial gestures are one of the most powerful assets in your toolbox. Let's go back to the concept of repeated mistakes. You have a student who constantly mispronounces certain words. You've pointed it out before, but it's proving difficult for them to shake the bad habit. How about feigning or gesturing apprehension as the student approaches these words on an article they're reading to you? A student being able to read the anticipation on your face will make them aware of what's coming and emphasize the correction without a word spoken on your part. Then, reward your student's correct pronunciation of that tricky word with a big smile and a thumbs up. Body and facial gestures are a universal language that you can lean on when tutoring. It's subtle and it creates a brain link between speech and action to boost language and vocabulary learning, while also reducing students' inhibitions and lowering stress. Last but not least, be patient. I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but again, there's a universal language in human gestures. Both facial and body languages will give away irritability or restlessness. Deep breaths, smile, gentle nods, be the Zen master that every good pupil needs. And there you have it. Those are a few good rules of thumb to follow when providing corrections and feedback to your students. Hope they help throughout your sessions, and happy tutoring!